Okay, welcome to Herbs Point. We're very excited to have you back for another video. Today is just a brief introduction where we're going to bring in our two specialists that we have here, Mr. Kyle Spencer, Dr. Linda Mead. And today we're just going to give you a little teaser, just a little taste of what's to come, specifically kind of talking about the idea of mental health and weight loss and how those two very complex things tie together. We can't possibly solve all of the questions in one sitting, but we're going to just kind of jump into it a little bit. If you're wondering what this video is about, we're specifically focusing in on our Jumpstart Your Weight Loss Journey. It's a video series that we are offering. You can go to our website, herbspoint.com, and there will be info at the end of the video for you to learn more. But this is going to be a multi-part series where you can watch the videos and then ask questions of our specialists. We will have live Q&As along the way where any questions or comments or thoughts that these guys provoke, you can share it with them, and then hopefully we'll be able to answer your questions as well. So I do want to introduce us a little bit more. Obviously, I'm CJ Wilson. Right here I have Mr. Kyle Spencer, who is a marriage and family therapist. Give me just a 30-second intro to who you are, Kyle.
Yeah, thanks, CJ. I work with clients mostly on behavior change, but what we find is that our behaviors are influenced by our thoughts, and our thoughts are influenced by our beliefs, and so all of those things need to change sometimes to create some behavior change.
Interesting. So that's his, and then you're probably not new to the channel, but if you are, I will go ahead and introduce Dr. Linda Mead as well again. So Linda, if you just give us a brief rundown of who you are.
Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Mead, and I am an internal medicine doctor. I've been practicing for many, many years, and I'm also specializing in obesity medicine. I've got a practice now focusing on helping people lose weight.
So both of these guys have shared a lot with me. I'm still very much on the beginnings of the journey of understanding this concept of weight loss. So it's been fascinating for me to learn what these guys share. And today, like we've mentioned, we're going to briefly touch on one idea. So I made these slides, these guys didn't, but the idea that I was wanting to talk about is this concept of mind over matter. It's just so easy, right? Just stop eating. I mean, right? If you need to lose weight, you just stop eating.
Eat more. Or eat less, exercise more.
Yeah,
that's all.
And that's all you tell people when you're working on systems and changes, right?
Pretty much.
So expound on that just a little bit on this idea of why it's not just mind over matter.
Yeah, like I said, our behaviors are influenced strongly by our beliefs. If I don't believe that it's a problem, then I'm not going to make the changes needed to change something that I don't consider a problem. Yeah. So if my weight's not a problem, then why would I go through all the struggle of making changes?
Mm-hmm. And Linda, I know that you interact a lot with patients. Typically, I would assume that they're ready to make changes by the time they come to you, but is this also an area you really have to think about with your patients?
It is, and I have actually perspective from both sides, because when I was practicing internal medicine, I would see patients that come in for their wellness and for other medical issues, and sometimes we broach the topic of excess weight, but sometimes they're not quite ready for that yet. Mm-hmm. And so, I introduce it, see how ready they are, because frankly, if you are not mentally ready to do this, you have to be first before you go down any of these paths.
Would you agree with that, Kyle?
Yeah, there's in my field we call it pre-contemplation stage.
That's
right? I have not even started thinking about making a change.
Okay, so there's pre-contemplation. Then what is the next one?
Contemplation. That means that I'm now considering changing. I think that there might be a problem, and I'm sort of working my way up to that.
So I suspect if people are actually interested in this and they're looking for these videos, they might be in one of these first two stages, pre-contemplation or contemplation.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked Kyle also to give us some questions that maybe are kind of, I don't even know how to explain this, that just maybe help us think about this. So maybe introduce these questions we're going to get into a little bit.
Okay. So I was trying to figure out ways that, or things that make healthy habits challenging that are not associated with just making small changes. So the first question that I posed her was that what are the beliefs about the role of food or the function of food that make health habits challenging? So as from a strictly physiological standpoint, food functions to provide calories or energy and nutrients to the body, right? But that's not all it is. Actually, very few of us think about food as fuel and nutrients. We think about food in other ways. One of the big ones is that we all sort of experience is food as a social activity, right? We eat as a way to connect with other people. Hey, let's hang out and let's go get something to eat. Some others would be food as a reward. Hey, you did really great on your test. Let's go get ice cream. So food functions as a reward, and then later on in life, sometimes it functions to make us feel better. So maybe I've had a rough day, and that's when I really want the ice cream. And we even have a word for that. It's called comfort food, right? I am feeling uncomfortable, and this food will help me feel a certain way. So those are things. Those are some beliefs. And I don't know. Maybe you have some other. You guys
I'm curious, Linda. Do you run into this kind
else?
of thought process with some of your patients?
I think, yes, it's all of those things. Food functions in a lot of different ways for us. And, comfort and boredom. We eat out of boredom. So many other things too. So, and a lot of times when I see patients too, they're familiar with these certain foods, right? They grew up a certain way. They grew up eating a certain way. That's how their parents cooked. That's what they're familiar with. And it's comforting in that way. But it's also hard for them to expand beyond that, because they're not sure how to do that, okay? They're not sure, how to prepare certain foods, what to even try, how to even eat that. So that's another barrier sometimes that can be a problem.
That's interesting to hear y'all say that. Would not have thought about this till just now, but broccoli, growing up, broccoli was just terrible, right? So broccoli is not something I'm ever gonna eat. And because I only understood it to be broiled broccoli. So for me, broiled broccoli is terrible. But then my wife one day did it a different way. She baked it. I can't tell you what the difference is, but I love baked broccoli, it turns out. So I hate boiled broccoli, but I love baked broccoli. But my mind was blown on, even every time I eat a broccoli bite, I'm like, I can't believe I'm eating this right now.
Yeah, it's different. And that's what I tell patients too, that to keep an open mind to these things, okay? To keep an open mind, maybe you've tried things a different way in the past, you've tried it with different things, you've tried it in a different situation, right?
Yes.
What do you hear when you hear that association? What's the kind of the mental processes that you're thinking there?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. One is how food can not only decrease our anxiety, but it can increase anxiety. When I eat foods that have a negative meaning to me, that can be uncomfortable. The other one is control. Sometimes that's one way that we can create some control and some comfort is I have control over my food. And then when I lose control, that can be very stressful. So yeah, it's not just food as a good thing. There's rules about there are certain bad foods, right? Like broccoli, for instance, or for this other person, milkshakes or sweets.
It's very interesting. So one other question that we wanted to throw out there at us, and I'll again let Kyle kind of lead us into it, but I'll read it. What are negative consequences of lifestyle change? And I have to be honest with you guys, whenever I read this question that Kyle presented, I was like, negative consequences? No, it's all good. You're going to be more healthy. You're going to have less heart problems. You won't come see me at the office. So honestly, I was like, there are zero negative consequences was my initial thought, but lead me into this. Tell me more about it.
So that's one of the things in my work that we're always trying to figure out is if it was just that easy, we would all do it. So what are the things keeping us from doing the things that we want to be doing, that we feel like we need to be doing? And for instance, if food or eating out or fast food is a social activity for me, then potentially healthy lifestyle changes could threaten my social network.
I see. If your friend group meets for a nice meal somewhere and that's how y'all interact, then you're going to have to figure out how to still have that good friend group without having that normal interest.
Yeah, and the same with our families, right? We our families sort of have some patterns or some activities that we do together. Am I going to be able to? Is Christmas going to be that fun if I can't eat all the fun stuff, or I'm choosing not to do that? So, there are some other consequences besides that we're losing besides
I'm even thinking, I'm just
changing the
spitballing as
food.
I'm listening to you talk about this, but like if one person in the family chooses to start eating healthy and the rest of the family chooses
Yes.
not, then all of a sudden you're like having to cook 2 different
Yes.
meals.
Yeah.
So
That is
what do you,
very
how do you
hard.
address all this kind of
Yes,
stuff?
that
with
is very
family?
hard. And if you, especially if you have, family, especially kids too, okay?
Oh, yeah, of course.
And then you're not wanting to do different meals for everybody. If you have your family support, they understand what you're trying to do. That's really, really helpful. You do have to get creative, okay? And I tell patients, I don't want you to cook 2 or 3 meals. I want you to cook what you think would be good, but then have options that everyone can enjoy. And especially with kids around, if you're exposing them to these new foods, okay, I think they may not like it at that time, but they'll see it. They might try it one time and they might like it. So it's just that exposure. But it is hard if the partners are not on the same page with this. That can be hard. The partner can sort of sabotage that subconsciously, okay, but it's still a sabotage situation where they're offering, the person things that are going to be hard for that person to resist.
I'm sitting here thinking about my broccoli analogy. I guarantee whenever my mom tried to cook broccoli and I threw an absolute fit, it probably was a barrier to her making broccoli in the
Again.
future. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I could absolutely see that. So and that would be one of these negative consequences. I'm gonna have to deal with my kid kind of throwing a fit every time I put the healthy food instead of the pizza on the plate. So
Another thing I had a thought of with this too is that for some people, and again, this goes back to the very deep emotional issues that's associated with food and weight and all of those things with that. But for some people, this excess weight is a protection for them.
really, in
Yes.
what way? Tell me about that.
Because maybe they had some unwanted attention in the past. Okay, maybe there's some past trauma with that. So it's a protection. They're not noticed. It's a way for them maybe to blend in. I've actually had a few patients that was something that we had to talk through because as they started to lose the weight, it became more vulnerable. They became more vulnerable.
And I think that's a great segue into just kind of wrapping this up. Something that Linda and I have talked about several times, and I think Kyle would agree, and I'd love to hear y'all's thoughts on it. We want this idea of losing weight to be because it's healthy for your body. We don't want it to be a guilt or I'm a bad person with this weight. And so maybe I'll let Kyle start, and then Linda can finish. Like, how do we help these folks here listening to us and watching us, how do we help them associate this in the right way and not in the wrong way?
Yeah. So one of the things that I mentioned is food can help us feel a certain way, and especially if I'm feeling bad, guilt is an emotion, and that if I'm carrying that emotion all day long, it will drain my resources. We talked about willpower. Emotions are energetically draining. And so if I am feeling guilty about the things that I'm doing all day long, at the end of the day, I'm pretty wiped out. I'm more tired than I need to be, and I'm not making good decisions. And so the guilt sort of making changes from a place of guilt usually gets us back to the place where we started at some point.
That's good.
This is where I think working with a great specialist in this area is so important, okay? Because that is not something that we can do on a visit. It's going to require ongoing exploration and just sort of unlocking some of these things and these triggers, and then using tools that you're going to teach people about in terms of how to reframe those thoughts that you get in your head, right?
Yeah.
We get a lot of thoughts in our head, whether we believe them or not. That's part of that.
Yeah.
There is so much more. We could talk for like 3 hours. I think we could just literally hit record and talk all day until we fell out of these chairs. We have a whole presentation, a whole video series that we want you to join us with. We're calling it our Jumpstart Your Weight Loss Journey. You can go to our website, herbspoint.com. At the end of the video, we'll have links to how you get to us. We'd love to have you join with us. These guys will be our keynote speakers. They will be sharing their insights on various topics. Again, we'll have a whole agenda outline that you can walk your way through. We're going to introduce the concept of obesity and how it relates to weight loss. We're going to talk about medical management. We're going to talk about the psychological aspects in depth. We're going to look into nutrition, exercise, every part of it. We're going to give you guys out there the tools you need to get going on the journey. We're not going to solve it for you, but we're going to get you going on that. We look forward to those of you that do join us, and we look forward to sharing more videos. Thanks.